Welcome to Paradise in the Pines, a podcast about the people, places, and stories that make this the home of American golf. Brought to you by the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Paradise in the Pines. I'm Phil Wurz, President and CEO of the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And today we're joined by Bryan Rosenberg, Chairman of the Carolina Horse Park Board of Directors. Bryan, welcome to Paradise in the Pines.
Good morning. Thank you.
We are so glad you're here. Carolina Horse Park has such a big influence on this area, celebrating your 25th anniversary this year. So it's quite an amazing achievement. Talk about Carolina Horse Park, where it is, and what is your mission?
Carolina Horse Park is very close to the Southern Pines area. It's actually in Hoke County near Rayford. It's 315 acres of open space. And it's an equestrian venue primarily where we host about 35 events of various disciplines of equestrian sport every year, and then a bunch of other things, environmental programs, educational programs, and that sort of thing.
It's an amazing facility, and we're an amazing destination that everybody, we're called the home of American golf, but equestrian and equestrian pursuits predate even Donald Ross's arrival in Pinehurst. Talk about the history of equestrian in this destination and how important it is and how significant a role it plays in this area.
Well, as you say, the equestrian community has quite a history here, and a number of things drew equestrians to this area. The weather, the sand, it's great for footing for horses. And then, we have a foundation of trails and places to hack and ride out with your horses. And we have the Moore County Hounds. And the Moore County Hounds are probably the first discipline and tradition of equestrian sports here. But then eventually all sorts of people came. We have a ton of international level and Olympic riders who are in the area, current or retired. But there's quite a few horse enthusiasts, and it's an engine for the real estate. It's one of the reasons that the real estate is as valuable as it is, especially as you get close to the foundation. 4,200 and some acres of open area for people to enjoy.
You mentioned some of the attributes and why equestrian is so popular here. Is that equally so with the Olympic riders you mentioned? Because there are quite a few. I've been here about 5 years, and when I found out that there are Olympic competitors in equestrian that train and do their work here before they go compete around the world.
Well, they all have a different story, but certainly the ones who figured out that it was really hard to train a horse in the Northeast figured out that this was a great place to come in the wintertime because it's hard to get your horses ready for the season when there's snow and ice and all that stuff. So I think at first, perhaps, many of them came because of the great opportunity in the wintertime to get your horse started. But many settled here and many are full-year residents, and so I think everyone has a different story of why.
It's really beautiful to drive around Moore County, especially I live in Whispering Pines, so I come down May Road. If the locals are familiar with that, I mean, there's several, I see horse farms and things like. Actually, I saw one of the Painted Ponies in somebody's pasture or near their farmhouse, and so it was kind of cool to see. We'll talk about the Painted Ponies in a moment, but talk about the culture of owning a horse. You see a lot, especially near where the old equine center used to be off Highway 1. You see a lot of people with their trailers that ride out there. So talk about, those people, those enthusiasts, and how much fun it is to ride on some of these trails when you do own a horse.
I equate it to being at the coast of North Carolina, because there are the farms that are first row and they have ready access and they don't need a trailer. They don't need to get in their cars to go. And that's awesome. You just hop on your horse and grab a friend and go out into the foundation. Or you're second row and you have to drive a walk around farms. But the place you're talking about is that it's open to anybody who wants to come and ride their horse in the foundation. So we have people that come from all over the place, all over the state, or just people who are too far to walk to the foundation. And they come and they park and they enjoy the outdoors.
You mentioned the Moore County Hounds. It's such a cool thing to see, whether it be the blessing of the hounds on Thanksgiving Day or the hounds on the grounds that Katie White and Weymouth do each year. They actually just had that recently. So I think it's amazing for people that don't own horses or not around there very often, like myself, to be able to see how spectacular these animals are, and then to see the regalia and the riders wearing their uniform. I don't know if they're officially called uniforms, but wearing the red coats and the hats, and it's just such a grand thing and so historic. You think about the history of equestrian and what it means to this area. To the layperson, what do you try to impress upon that person that maybe doesn't have the background in that field that you want them to come away with?
Well, specifically with the hunt, and I'm not a member of the hunt, so I am not an expert in this area, but the hunt goes through my property because I'm right on the edge of the foundation, and most people welcome them, and it's fun to watch the pack of hounds working, and they are incredibly well trained, so it is just so much fun to watch them working. I know there's only a couple of opportunities for the general public to participate in that, like the blessing of the hounds. And I think that we all in the equestrian community are trying to educate and bring in non-equestrians to get them familiar with what we do and how we do it. And it is part of the community, and so it's very, very important. The Carolina Horse Park Foundation is, of course, also very important to the equestrian community. And all of our events are open to the public, but it's a little bit more difficult because you have to come during an event. We are not open all the time.
Right.
We don't have horses there when we're not having a horse show. So it's a little bit different, but part of the reasons we do the activities, and I know you said we're going to talk about the painted ponies, but it's to basically make sure people know that we have this gem within 30 minutes of downtown Southern Pines and Pinehurst that is basically a great opportunity to get out and enjoy the outdoors. It's wide open space. It's usually beautiful weather, and it doesn't cost anything. So it's pretty cool.
You mentioned the Painted Ponies. Let's get right after that. This is the fourth year, and as we record this and as this podcast becomes public view, it'll be mid-February, so the reveal for the fourth year has already been done. How did you guys come up with the idea for the Painted Ponies and to get this program started?
Well, I had seen similar things done in other communities, and what I was trying to do was really meld together the business community in Southern Pines, and they support us, the equestrian community, and specifically the horse park, to a large extent. So I was trying to do something that would benefit the businesses downtown by bringing people downtown, but we've not really had a ton of public art displays in the area. I'm glad to see that we're doing more.
Right.
The mural projects are great, but this was one of the first ones, albeit temporary. They're only up for about 2 months each year, but still. And at first, people are like, "What's this all about?" Now, I was putting up the platforms, and everybody's like, "Oh, are the ponies coming back to town?"
Right, yeah.
Everybody knows about it, and we get a lot of people from outside of the area. But then, of course, there's tons of people. You see them walking around with their maps, looking at it.
Right.
So, and then, of course, the most important thing for me is it's also a fundraiser. After the 2 months, we auction off the painted ponies at a live auction, and that raises funds to help support the Carolina Horse Park.
When you first started doing this, and I'll be transparent, just saying the CVB's been, and maybe not, I think the first year we were involved, we have been the last 3 years, and we've sponsored 2 of them. Dan, our destination storyteller, who's a producer of this podcast, painted one last year. Was the Home of American Golf Horse. People remember it was one that had Donald Ross on it, and Peggy Kirk Bell, and Donald Ross, and Payne Stewart. So he really enjoyed doing that, and we enjoy being part of this. So when you bring in the horses, where do you get the horses, and how do you find the artists to paint these?
Well, we found the source, and I think they do these blanks. They're fiberglass blank sculptures.
Real, true life. I mean,
they're pretty close to life size. That's correct. And I think they do these sorts of things for lots of different communities, so it wasn't hard to find them. The first year we had to explain to artists, which are all volunteer, by the way. So it's a huge commitment, as I'm sure Dan can say.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time, and it takes a lot of you have about 2 months to do it, but it's still a lot of hours. So and they didn't really understand what I was asking them to do. So it was a little difficult the first year. But after the first year, we have people signing up, volunteering to paint next year's ponies right after the conclusion. And about half are professional artists, but half are amateurs. Or like Dan, very experienced, but not making their living doing art. Painting art anyway. So it's really kind of interesting, and we get a lot of repeat people, but we also, every year we bring in new artists as well.
And so typically, how many are there? Where do you position them? And you talked about a 2-month time frame, so really from early February till, I guess, mid-April.
Early April, that's correct. So they're designed to be in the business district of Southern Pines. So most of them are on or within a block of Broad Street. We have one that's outside the historic district this year. It's at Red's Corner, which is kind of a cool thing. Finish up your tour and have some lunch, I guess. But those are just basically designed. And if you go down on any day during the 2-month period, you'll see people walking around with their map showing them where each of the ponies, where it's located, what the theme name is, who the artist is, and what businesses sponsored that particular pony.
And how many are there? I think there was about 14 or 15 this year.
This year there's 14.
Okay.
Last year there were 15. I'm pretty much the labor of much of this, so I've capped it at 15. There will not be any more than 15.
Well, they are spectacular. They're beautiful. They're great. And like you said, it's great for the business community. I remember when Dan painted the Home of American golf horse, it was in front of the country bookstore. We had actually requested that space. And so I remember, because Shannon, who assists you, I remember it was being put in a different location. So I called her and I said, hey, it's supposed to be over here. And you guys were able to move it. And then a lady from the real estate office right next to the country bookstore said, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this horse all year. You haven't heard about this horse, and it's going to be right here. So they're super excited. How excited is the business community get for this? Because obviously it drives a lot of people to into their stores as well.
Everyone seems very supportive. And the town of Southern Pines is incredibly supportive. It was difficult, again, the first time. They're not 100% sure, and getting approvals was lengthy. It wasn't difficult. It was just lengthy, a lot of explaining. Now they're like, oh, yeah, we know how this goes. Yeah. And so everyone's very, very supportive. It's hard to say how much people spend when they come down to Southern Pines to look at the ponies. But clearly the number of visitors is high during that period of time, and a lot of that is attributed to the ponies. So they appreciate it.
You mentioned Red's Corner, and this was basically, I told Shannon, but the CVB would purchase the second horse. CVB would put it down on the southern end. I know most of the horses are in the central business district, but I think it's important, especially with what we've got going on down there with Red's Corner and the new rec room opening. Sly Fox is there. You go a little bit further down, you got 195 and Nature Zone. So it really kind of extends that experience. It is a little bit longer. And Hatchet Brewery is on that way from the remaining horse in the central business district to get to Red's Corner. But we appreciate your flexibility in being able to add that at Red's Corner. I know Rachel's super excited about that. And talk about the artist who painted that particular one that'll be at Red's Corner, Larissa. We were talking before the pack. I can't pronounce her last name, but you say you call her Larissa.
Larissa Ann Creations, because her last name is a challenge. So she is an amateur. I'll say amateur because she doesn't make her living painting art, but she has a number of art creations, and now she has a website. And she is an active military person, and she is going to be rolling out of the military, I think, in about a year.
Okay.
So she is preparing for her career as a professional artist and making her living with art. but she's already doing a ton of stuff, and so we have a lot of collaboration with her. Enjoy it. She did. She's done a couple of things, including a very famous horse that was a Korean, the highest decorated equine in the Korean conflict. So,
Wow. Okay.
American war horse.
Well, I know she'd posted some reels on Instagram of this horse that's going to be at Red's Corner. It's beautiful. I can't wait to see it in person. Have you seen some of the other ones that are going to be on display or on display this year? And can you kind of describe what we're going to see?
Well, so they all come to my farm because I do the last step, which is to put an epoxy protective coat on all of them. So they're all 14 are at my farm right now. So I get to see them up close and personal and get them looking all shiny and protected from the weather. It's always amazing to me that it doesn't matter how many horses we've done. Now, we haven't always done 14 or 15. We started at 10. It keeps going up. But so we've done well over 40 now, and they're all so different. It's amazing to me that people can keep coming up with new themes and new ideas. And then, like this year, it's surprising because the artists don't really tell each other what they're doing in detail. This year, we have a number of hunt scenes. We haven't always had a lot of hunt scenes on the sides of the horses, but this year we do.
The patriotic ones seem to do really well. I'm talking about the auction. The patriotic ones seem to do very well.
They do. And this year we have Sergeant Reckless is that horse I was talking about. Larissa did one a few years ago, and it was representational of the horse. This year we have a different artist who's doing a similar topic, but it's real life. So it's all muddy. It's carrying a pack where the ammunition would be stored for it to make its trek out to the front lines and carry ammunition. So some are realistic and some are representational and some are just fun and decorative, and they all seem to do very well. Different people like different things, as with all art, and we have usually a very successful auction.
And you talk about the auction. Carolina Horse Park is a 501c3. Auction is very important. Talk about the range. I mean, I guess it depends on the horse. I mean, it seems like you raised $125,000, I believe, last year.
We did.
So, I would imagine it's probably going to be pretty similar this year.
I hope.
The range they run is from like $5 to $20,000, maybe.
So last year it ranged from, I think it was $4,000 to $26,000. So. I always say there's one person that loves every pony. We get really good prices when there's at least two people that love a pony. So usually there's at least two people, and last year a little colt. So we have two different general sizes, the full-size ones and then colts that are about half that size. But it doesn't seem to matter what size it is. It matters whether the artwork captures somebody's, and the one that was painted like Tiffany, like stained glass Tiffany, was very popular last year, and it went for $26,000, which is a record.
Dan can tell you a story when he did the Home American Golf Pony. We have a storage unit at Aberdeen Self-Storage, so we had two at the time, so we had enough room in the storage unit. He painted it in the storage unit, so he'd go there, on his off time. And people would walk by because he was on the drive line, and people would stop by. And in fact, one gentleman stopped and said, "I want to buy this horse right now." I think it offered you what, $12,000 for the $12,000 for the horse, because he's like, "I love golf. My wife loves horses. This is perfect." And he's like, "Well, there is an auction." So it just referred him to that. But it just shows that they are striking, they are beautiful, perfect for selfies and pictures. You mentioned the auction. It is a 501c3 Carolina Horse Park. What programs do this money help support through the year?
Well, all the programs out at the horse park. We are very much needing donations and fundraisers like this. So we have everything from capital improvements. Last year, that money much of that money went towards permanent bathrooms out at the horse park. But we have all sorts of programs, and not all of them, many of them are not money making, so we need to raise money for that. We had a falconry, we have actually done it like 3 times now. We have a falconry exhibit, very popular, especially with the kids.
Yeah.
Birds of prey, and they're these folks bring a number of different types of birds of prey, and does a live demonstration with them, and it's also educational.
What time of year do you do that?
Well, we've done it both in the spring and in the fall.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So we have a bat walk that's very popular, where you can put a little device on your phone, and it turns the sonar beeps from a bat into something that you can hear. And so you walk around and you can identify what the bats are that are flying around by the sonar
Amazing.
signature.
Wow, I had no idea you
And
did
we have tons of different kinds of bats, and I had no idea.
that. That is incredible. Now, you're a lawyer by trade, graduated from Campbell Law, from what I saw, so hooray to the Camels. And but you've been riding horses since 8 years old. So talk about how you got involved in equestrian and your love of the endeavor.
I like to characterize myself as a re-rider. I rode from the time I was 8 until my second year of college, and then I ran out of money, which frequently happens when you're in horses, and took
And in law school.
yeah, took a break for career and raising a family, and then about, I don't know, 15 years ago, got back into it in a serious kind of way, and moved down here from Raleigh. I checked out a number of equestrian communities in the state, and what I loved about the Southern Pines area is that you drive down one of these roads where the farms are, and you don't just see horses that are sequestered in their farms. You see people riding together, and that really attracted me. I didn't want to just have my horse in a barn up in Raleigh.
Yeah.
I wanted to have the experience of camaraderie and the equestrian community. I'm a jumper. So the discipline that I participate in is a jumper. So I enjoy that a lot, and I do compete a number of times a year.
Talk about competing for the layperson like myself. When would I want to come out? What are specific events that Carolina Horse Park hosts every year that I might say, hey, you know what? This would be a great day to go out there and experience what this sport or this activity is all about.
Well, our calendar is published in the pilot and online and in a number of different areas. But if I were going to point someone to come out to like the most exciting thing, we host an international level eventing competition, 3-day eventing competition. It's in March. It's the 16th through the 19th. And on Saturday, March 18th, we will have the cross-country phase of the 4-star, which is the highest level that we host at the horse park. And it is amazing what these athletes, and I mean both the riders and the horses, amazing athletes. If people like other types of viewing, the dressage is on Thursday. The show jumping is on Friday, and the cross country is on Saturday. But the cross country with those big, massive jumps that, except under extreme conditions, do not fall over when you hit them. They are massive and impressive, and these horses and riders do a fabulous job, and from all over the world.
And those are free events open to the public?
Yeah, you can get Carolina Club tickets if you want to experience food and beverage and see the live stream commentary. But if you just want to enjoy the outdoors and watch from nearby the jumps, and there are people with whistles, because you can get really close, and if you get too close, you'll get a whistle blown at you. But it's great fun.
What about steeplechases? I know some of those things, like I'm from Virginia, so Charlottesville area, they have big steeplechase. I think there's one in Raleigh. Is there any thought of doing something like that, more of like a Kentucky Derby type? I don't know if that's something that's out of the realm of what Carolina Horse Park would do, but
actually we have a steeplechase course, and we ran the Stony Brook steeplechase for a number of years. We don't run that anymore, and the primary reason is that steeplechase is not part of our equestrian community. It's not one of the disciplines where we have steeplechase horses, training, and riders in this area, and it was a problematic event for us to run. It's very weather dependent, and as a 501c3, it's difficult to do that sort of thing. But yeah, we have in the past, but we do not run the steeplechase any longer.
I know this would not fall under your realm, but I know when I first arrived here, there was a video that tourism was using, and it had a clip of somebody riding a horse. I'm like, where can you go do that? But you cannot do that. Nobody's taken on the liability, I guess. What do you think that would be something that could happen in Moore County, should happen in Moore County? What would it take for somebody to take on that endeavor to allow people to actually go rent a horse experience that you see on the Outer Banks or up in the mountains?
I'm not really sure. I mean, it's a business, and I think it's a very tough business for someone to own a livery stable and to either let people take horses out on their own or guided things. And so I've not heard of anybody trying to start something like that up. Certainly, we have a great community for that.
Right.
There's plenty of horses around, including some that might be ready to have a quieter life of walking through the woods with somebody teetering on their back because they have never ridden before. That's fine. We certainly have the area for people, but I've not heard of anybody that really wanted to go to that effort. But it would be fun. I think it'd be great.
You mentioned Carolina Horse Parks in Hoke County, but you do have a tourism impact on Moore County because you're so close, and with the lodging component, and our budget's based on 3% occupancy tax. What is believe the tourism impact is on Carolina Horse Park? Because when people do compete there, they typically stay in accommodations here in Moore County.
We've used numbers generated by the American Horse Council, and we estimate that the economic impact annually from the horse park last year was over $10 million to the area. That would include Hoke County and Moore County. But you're right, Moore County. A lot of the people do stay in Moore County, so the hotels and restaurants in Moore County benefit a lot, but Hoke County benefits as well.
Before we go, want to have you, what's the website for Carolina Horse Park? And you talk about people making a donation. If people want to donate to the mission and the cause for the Carolina Horse Park, how can they do that?
So the website's very complicated. It's carolinahorsepark.com. And there is a donate button or tab right on the landing page of the Carolina Horse Park. It also has a banner that has a link to the Carolina International and many of the other activities that are going on. And so that's probably the best place, is just to go to the landing page and poke around. There's a calendar there. And so I hope everybody comes out and enjoys the park. You'll probably see me, say hello, and I hope everyone comes out.
Well, we certainly enjoyed our time with you today. Bryan Rosenberg with Carolina Horse Park. Painted Ponies, they're going to be on display throughout downtown Southern Pines from now through about mid-April. Then there's the auction. It'd be kind of cool if we could have them there all year round. I think people would enjoy that. But I know you have a mission to do. Maybe that's something we could do down the road. But again, thank you for joining us on Paradise in the Pines. And if you want to learn more about tourism in Moore County, go to our website, homeofgolf.com. If you want to watch this podcast, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Home of American Golf. And if you want to download this podcast, download it on your favorite podcatcher. I'm Phil Wers with the Convention and Visitors Bureau for Pinehurst, Southern Pines, and Aberdeen, and we'll see you next time in Paradise in the Pines.